Welcome back to the Elite Ball Knowledge Podcast. Today I want to talk about an issue in the league that I really wanted to talk about for some time. And that's being the way the league handles their young quarterbacks.
I'm a pit bull, but darling, mommy, I just want to take you on a holiday, mommy.
Such as Bryce Young, Justin Fields, Caleb Williams. These young guys taken in the first round, put into horrible situations, thrown out into the fire too early, and then they underperform, and then they're called to be let go or traded up. So sit back, relax, watch this video. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and let's get into it. Before I start talking about the main quarterbacks who are affected by this problem in the league, I want to talk about a few quarterbacks who have been affected and what happened to their careers. So the first of which I want to talk about is Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence was taken first overall by the Jaguars, and he was put into a horrible coaching situation with Urban Meyer and then Doug Peterson. But Doug Peterson was okay for a little bit until he just didn't get the progress that they needed. And when he was under Urban Meyer, not only was the coach a horrible role model for him, but he was constantly under pressure, under sacks. He didn't have any weapons, and he was just put into a horrible situation where he couldn't succeed at all. And I think that really, as of recently, he's been making a change. I think that he's been good ever since he made the playoffs. Not the best, but I think that under this new coach, Liam Cohen, he should be good. And I think that that's another example of teams really trying to build around their guy, because the Jacksonville Jaguars have really sought everything in their power to get these receivers for him, these weapons for him, this line for him. So genuinely, I think the Jaguars are making a good effort to do right by Trevor Lawrence, and hopefully he proves me wrong, because I think that he's definitely been getting hurt way too much, and I think that during his rookie season, he's one of the quarterbacks who was a prime example of this, where the team wasn't ready for him to start, and it really should have been a veteran quarterback for him to learn under for a few years. Just until they got the head coaching situation figured out, the line figured out, and his targets figured out. The next quarterback I want to talk about afflicted by this problem, from the same class, 2021, he was selected second overall. It's Zach Wilson. Now, Zach Wilson was selected by the New York Jets by a head coach who was not really quarterback friendly. He was more of a defensive man himself, and I don't think he was given the right tools to develop. But after the first season, it came clear that Zach Wilson is not ready for the NFL. He definitely should have sat for longer, but he eventually had a 6-win season. He eventually played a few okay games as a quarterback, but he was always just bad. I do think that most of that one was on him. He's mostly a bad quarterback, but I do think that he would have done better, and definitely in a better surrounding, if he had just a little bit more help on the offensive line. I mean, Zach Wilson was drafted so high for a reason. It may have been for one throw, but it still was a reason. He still had some success in college. So I think that he really could have had even a 10th of that success in the league should he have had a good surrounding. And I do think he was thrown out to the fire way too early. But, I mean, he did develop under Aaron Rodgers a little bit. He had one good game against the Chiefs, which they really should have won. But I do think that, the Jets really wasted Zach Wilson, and now he's a perpetual backup for the foreseeable future. And I don't think, partially it was his fault. He was not a good quarterback, but I do think that he was not going to get where he was in New York, especially because of the surrounding he was put in. So now I want to talk about the meat and potatoes of this whole video, which is going to be the 3 horsemen of this problem. The horseman from the past being Anthony Richardson, the horseman of the present being Bryce Young, and the horseman of the future being Caleb Williams. And let's start with the horseman of the past, which is probably going to be the last time this situation is ever going to affect a quarterback like this, from what we've seen out of Anthony Richardson.
The gang talking to me sounding like some activist. Talk to him every.
I made a video about Anthony Richardson before, alluding to the fact that he is drafted really high as a project quarterback. Everyone knows that, and everyone still is putting the media spotlight on him, even though he really shouldn't have been starting. He was put behind a situation where the coach, I don't even think this coach really wanted Anthony Richardson, just from the way that they're dealing with him, handling him now, because they're starting Daniel Jones, who's historically not a good quarterback, over this unproven talent just to save their job. And Anthony Richardson will probably be traded heading to a new team by the end of the season. I think that Anthony Richardson definitely did not have the best line. He was always getting hurt. He was not coached well, and I think that it's a two-way street. Anthony Richardson was immature, and the coach did not seem to want to work with him. Obviously, we don't know what happens behind closed doors, but it did not seem like there was a very good mesh between the two. And I think if Richardson had that figure in his life, in his coaching staff, that was like, hey, you need to buckle down, you need to learn. Something like how Nick Saban is a coach. He's very tough on his players. He was, at least. And I think if he had someone like that, a firm hand on the steering wheel, Richardson would have been there. And I think that's also partly on Richardson, but I think they threw him out way too early when they drafted him as a project quarterback. He could have sat behind Flacco. He could have sat behind Minshew. So I think the front office really messed up with Richardson. I don't think this was mostly his fault. I mean, sure, what he did in the games was his fault, but he did have some bright spots. And I don't want to talk about Richardson too much. There's a video on my channel about him. So I think that the main point I'm getting at is the front office really did him wrong here. He also did wrong, but I think it was mostly on the front office and the coaching staff. Now, the second horseman I want to talk about, horseman of the present NFL, is Bryce Young. And he's kind of the current model of the situation that we see, where he was put into a horrible situation, taken first overall to the Panthers. Now, the Panthers really kind of messed up Bryce Young, at least for the first year. He had us in the first half, but I think the first year he was sacked 60-plus times, 62, I think, to be in fact, behind a horrible offensive line, no weapons. That year is kind of excusable. Second year under Dave Canales, the guy who revived Baker Mayfield's career, he goes and he throws a pick on the first play of the season. Now, the line is still bad, but it should be better, I'm assuming, because he only got sacked limited times for how much he was in. He had Xavier Legette, and he had a few other wide receivers. So the Panthers really kind of built around him, but it was more like they were half-assing it. And I think Bryce Young really felt the effects of that. He needed development as well, but he was still somewhat pro-ready. He played at Bama. That's a program that really develops their quarterbacks. He played under Nick Saban, went to a national championship. So I think Bryce Young really, he's the textbook of what this problem is, where he was thrown into the fire way too early, and he was just barraged by all these defensive linemen who could easily get to the quarterback. He was also not given any weapons. The coaching staff really had to bench him for him to learn under Andy Dalton, if you can call that learning. But I think when he came back after that little sabbatical, he really started to ball out. And I think that's what Anthony Richardson needs to do. That's what all these quarterbacks need to do, actually. They need to all these offices need to sit this young quarterback so he can learn. And then he can go out into a situation where he can just ball. And I think that once Bryce Young finally got that lesson he needed to, sitting down, actually working with the coach, from what we could see, he really started to ball out, and we saw that towards the end of the season, and he's looking really good now that he has Tyrone McMillan and Xavier Legette on his team. So now I want to talk about the horsemen of the future. I said men in plural because there are a few quarterbacks I'd like to touch up on. First of one being Caleb Williams.
I need you, yeah, I really do. Tell me what to do.
Okay.
He had us in the first half. Definitely. His first season was pretty bad. His rookie season. He got sacked a lot of times. Maybe even a record. It sure felt like that watching him play. I think Ben Johnson really is going to help develop him. So he has the coaching on his side. That's one. His GM is really bringing in these weapons for him, being Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, and DJ Moore. These guys are all around him, along with Colson Loveland and DeAndre Swift, if we can really count them. Then you want to look at the offensive line. That's the third thing on this list that he's doing. He's brought in the offensive line. So he has a coach, he has weapons, and he has an offensive line. So there's really no excuses left for Caleb Williams other than the fact that he's young. And even then, he got a quarterback-minded coach who will help him develop. So I think Caleb Williams is breaking this cycle, and I think he'll be the future model of how we would like to see Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart all developed upon. And I think another quarterback that fit this bill was Michael Penix. He was selected in the same draft class. Michael Penix, really, I think it's a different story because Raheem Morris did a great job when they drafted him. They sat him for a while under an experienced starter, so he has the experience. The coach, I don't want to say he's a good coach for quarterbacks, but he definitely has a sound coaching system. He has good weapons being Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod. They got a few guys, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. And his offensive line is solid. It's not the best, but it's still solid. So I think that they did a good job with Michael Penix. He should be the model. He is technically the textbook model in my book of how you should draft a quarterback and develop him. Another one being Jordan Love. See, with Jordan Love, I think he might not have enough experience behind the center because he was really drafted 2020. He was sat for a few years, and then when he came back, I said this in my other video, but he's looking good. He's looking like he's ready to start. He learned under Aaron Rodgers for a few years, really got him the mentorship. His offensive line is solid. His receivers are really good. And his coaching staff is really good. Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan's coaching tree should develop this quarterback nice. So I think that these teams are really starting to learn how to develop their quarterbacks. And I'd love to see these upcoming rookies and the rookies after that learn how this works and get into good situations like Michael Penix and Jordan Love. Now I want to talk about a quarterback who escaped this kind of situation, that being Justin Fields. Now Justin Fields was drafted by the Bears, and as we all know, it did not work out. Much like a lot of Bears quarterbacks, they all get hurt beyond repair. They all get barraged by this defensive line because their offensive line just lets anyone through. They don't have any weapons. The front office had been horrible for a long time. Their coaching had been horrible for a long time. And this was particularly the case with Justin Fields because he came into a situation where he was immediately set upon the Rams, who had just come off a Super Bowl win, and actually not just come off. They were on their way to a Super Bowl win, and Aaron Donald, first game of the season, you could see Aaron Donald was already getting to Justin Fields, and Justin Fields was already getting hit, and that is something you don't want because Justin Fields, he's incredibly athletic. He took Ohio State to the national championship, or at least to the playoffs. He's a fast, athletic quarterback. He set records rushing. He looked good at times passing when he wasn't under duress. So the Bears really messed this up, and this is kind of going to be looked at what not to do for a quarterback. Well, they drafted him high in the first round. That's something you can't do, especially because he was already falling. So they drafted him high. That's excusable. Second, they had a horrible offensive line. Why start the quarterback if you're going to put him behind the offensive line? If the line is made out of paper, why put someone made of glass behind a bull rush with only paper protecting it? That's the only way I can describe it. And their coaching was not there. They had horrible coaching around Justin Fields. The weapons were not there. Specifically, when they got DJ Moore, Justin Fields was already getting hurt too. And he was really sacked a lot of times. I can pull up a video where he was just sacked and just watch that as a textbook what not to do with their rookie quarterback. And I'm sure it must eat at him now because as soon as he left the Bears, they start building around this young quarterback. They start building his line. They start giving him weapons. So, Justin Fields, happy for him. He went to the Steelers. He looked good in what we've seen out of him. I'm excited to see him on the Jets because the Jets are actually building his line. He has good weapons there. He has a solid coaching staff. He has a solid front office. He's now experienced. He has all the experience. So I think Justin Fields really escaped this. He was really pegged as this quarterback. He's not good. He's been put under pressure the whole time. The Bears wasted him. He's injured. He's just a runner. He'd been forced out of the pocket for his whole career. Of course he's going to be a runner. So I'm excited to see what Justin Fields does on the Jets. They got some offensive linemen to help him. So I think we'll really get to see Justin Fields blossom into this quarterback that we saw in college. And this time we'll get to see it in the Jets uniform. So now I want to talk about what needs to change in this league. Because this has been a problem for so long. I've seen so many teams ruin quarterbacks. Sam Darnold was ruined just by off the top of my tongue. He's one of the biggest examples. So first thing that needs to change, teams need to be better prepared for these quarterbacks. If they're going to draft them in the first round, they better be spending money in free agency to get their team up. Second of all, don't draft your quarterback in the first round. If you know your team is not going to be that good for the quarterback, don't draft him that high. Start lower. I mean, if I were a GM, I'd smoke screen his talent. I'd try and put some words in there that he's going to fall and get into everyone's head so that he falls to the second round, and they'll draft him there. Because then I can take an offensive lineman with my first pick and then get a quarterback who will be safe behind that lineman. Or get a receiver, get him someone he can throw to. So I think that partially the quarterbacks don't need to be taken that high. Specifically if you're a quarterback needy team, late round picks are also producing good quarterbacks. Look at Brock Purdy. Look at all these other quarterbacks who are taking late rounds. And I think you definitely don't need to take quarterback this early if you're going to throw him to the fire and not develop him. Second, you need to have a solid coaching staff. We saw from Justin Fields, no one there to coach him. We saw with Trevor Lawrence, no one there to coach him. So he definitely needs a coaching staff around him to keep him of that ability to learn, get better. And third, he needs to have weapons around him. Same thing with the offensive line. The team needs to be ready for him to be there. Ready for this new quarterback. And I think the Titans are really doing a good job of this because they have a quarterback-friendly coach. Brian Callahan worked with Joe Burrow, made him develop into a good quarterback. They got Cam Ward, full of experience. Second, another thing, the quarterback needs to have experience. Cannot be another Trey Lance, Anthony Richardson situation. So Cam Ward, full of experience. He'll be good under center. He's calm. He can adjust to the pocket collapsing pretty well. I think they have a few linemen. They have Peter Skoronski on there. I know that much. They have a few linemen just there to protect him. They definitely got receivers. They got Calvin Ridley. They got Xavier Restrepo. They've got a few guys. So I think Alec Ayomanor, he's good. So I think that Titans are a good job of really preparing their team for this quarterback. Definitely with their coach. So I do think that Will Levis could have been done, but I think that they needed to have a coach-quarterback relationship, and I definitely don't think that was there. So those are the things that just need to change because I'm tired of seeing all these quarterbacks coming from college being heavily touted as these number one picks and then getting drafted first overall, thrown out to the fire, injured, not producing well because they're always under pressure, and then cast away like a broken toy. And that's something that the league cannot continue doing, and something I feel very strongly because I've seen it happen to all these quarterbacks. I've followed the draft, I've done mock drafts, and then all these guys get cast away. So I think that's just one of the bigger problems in the league. And if you like this video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, follow my Instagram, and drop your own take in the comments. Thank you for watching. You guys are studs.